Hello fellow lovers of the liminal and the weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today we are going to be discussing a Japanese science fiction novel that is most known, I think, because of an anime version of it that was made. But this is the book Paprika, and it is by Yasutaka Tsutsui. Somebody who I haven't read a lot of at all. This was my first book by him that I've read. He has done other science fiction stories, but I think this is the one that he's the most famous for. I am recording this video. When I took all the notes for this video, I did not watch the anime. I have now seen the anime, but I'm not going to talk about the anime in connection to this book. But I will say, now that I've seen the anime, there are differences between the anime and this book. Some of what I'm going to be talking about will be spoilers for the anime. There are certain aspects of this story that the book just instantly tells you that the anime kind of leaves you to figure out over time. So just doing the basic synopsis of this will be giving away a couple of bits about the anime that are revealed later, but that are revealed right away in this book. So, all right, let's jump into the synopsis. So this novel takes place in, I guess it's supposed to be the near future. It doesn't seem like it's that. It was written in the 90s in Japan, and it doesn't seem that far off from that era, except for that there's kind of more tech that's been developed. And it specifically looks at a team that has developed a dream machine. This is a way to do therapy through going into the patient's dreams and interpreting and changing and helping shape dreams in order to cure their patients. And they've been looking specifically at schizophrenia. The team consists of Atsuko Chiba and Tokita. I can't find his last name, sorry. Tokita is the genius that has come up with the technology, and Atsuko is the one who is testing it as a psychologist or as a therapist. So both of them have really revolutionized the industry of therapy and psychology. Him by inventing the dream machine, which I think they call a Medusa head, because it's a cap they put on with a ton of wires, and her by using the technology and her schooling and skill in psychology in order to treat people through their subconscious. Right away, you're of course thinking this fits perfectly in our dream machine trope, and you are absolutely right. This was recommended to me by one of the viewers, and it does fit perfectly in that. For more information on that, go watch the video. I think it's called check out this intense sci-fi reading list or something like that. But it's on our channel there for all of the books that we found that have fit under this trope. So they've created this dream machine, and they've used it, and now there's other research groups that are starting to use it, and unfortunately a couple of the psychologists that have been using this new therapy technique are beginning to take on the same kind of schizophrenic symptoms as the patients that they're treating. So they're afraid that these machines are going to create a contagious schizophrenia, which would, of course, completely destroy everything they've worked for. And to add to that, both Atsuko and Tokita are up for a Nobel Prize for the work they've done in psychology. So they definitely don't want anything ruining their chances of getting that prize. Eventually, Tokita creates a newer version of the dream machine that doesn't take the Medusa head. Instead, it's like the size of a seed, and it's called a DC Mini. And it's just this little thing that they shove into their heads, and it allows wireless access, basically, to people's dreams and subconscious. And they don't understand the side effects of the possible use of this machine, and also they don't Tokitas particularly doesn't take care to lock it down, and they're stolen. And this book deals with the impact of people using this unknown technology and the side effects it has on the planet. It's really an enjoyable read. I have a few problems with it, but we'll get into that in just a second. But overall, I would like to say that anybody who enjoys thoughtful science fiction, if you've enjoyed the other Dream Machine tropes we've done on this channel, this fits perfectly in there, and I think you would enjoy it for that as well. All right, let's take a minute to look at the publication history of this book. This book was released in 1993 in Japan. Before that, it first appeared in Marie Claire magazine in 4 parts, each appearing chronologically in the January 1991, March 1992, and August 1992, and June 1993 issues. That's a really interesting spread of dates. A manga adaptation of the novel was created by Deiji Hagiwara in 1995, but it was not published until 2003. So somebody made the manga, but it took that long from 1995 all the way till 2003 for this to be published. And then the novel was adapted as an animated film in 2006. I'm not sure if the anime was inspired by the 2003 manga, or if it was inspired by the novel. From what I've been able to tell, it seems like it's pointing to the novel. Unfortunately, I don't have the manga, so I'm not able to read that as well. To do a true deep read of this story and all of its different steps, I would have to do the novel, then the manga, then the anime, but all I could do was the novel and the anime. So I don't really know what the manga changed, what it took out, what it kept the same, unfortunately. It wasn't until after the anime was released that this was released in English in the United States. And this was translated by Andrew Driver in 2009. So that's just a quick history of the novel. Now let's get into the pros and cons. All right, let's talk about what works in this novel. The concept of the Dream Machine is absolutely incredible. I really enjoy science fiction that looks into the concept of perception and what it means to live in our own heads and what our subconsciouses would look like. My favorite novel of all time is by another Japanese writer named Haruki Murakami, and he wrote Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, which deals with subconscious as well. So it's a theme that I very much enjoy, and this book really looks into that, which is great. I really loved that. All of these characters are spectacularly flawed in very unique ways. They're all really easy to hate, but you also find yourself kind of falling in love with them, which is super interesting. That's not what I expected from this novel. And most importantly, I believe that this novel takes a look at psychology and the subconsciousness of Japan itself in a very specific generation. Of course, the generation that the writer's a part of. And what I mean by that is the novel is looking at different people's subconscious, but certain things occur that allow him to start looking at what I could only call the kind of zeitgeist of this specific writer's generation in Japan. And it's a very unflinching look at that generation, and I find that really interesting, and that in itself is what really made it worth a read for me. But that also leads directly into kind of some of the things that aren't working in this book. The main character, her name is Atsuko Chiba, and she is also Paprika, and that's told to us right away at the beginning of the novel. Paprika is just a name that she's come up for herself as a therapist, because she is doing therapy on people before the Medusa head dream machine has been given the go-ahead publicly to use as a form of therapy. So it's actually illegal for her to be doing this therapy, but very high-ranking Japanese people that need therapy but can't let other people know they need therapy, because when this was written, therapy was still had a huge stigma attached to it in Japan. I don't know how it is now, but the concept of any insanity in your family had wide-reaching and terrible consequences. So people come to Paprika who can't let the public know that they need therapy, and they need a quick cure. So she has taken on this other personality of this therapist. And I found myself at first having a very hard time with her character. Because number one, she did fall in love with every client she had. Every client she had, she says, I've fallen in love with this person, and they all fell in love with her. And that seemed a little bit strange to me. Also, she uses a form of sexual therapy. It's strange because she kind of becomes therapist, wife, and mother to these men that she helps. We never see her help a woman. And that seemed strange to me. It definitely didn't seem like therapy that I'm used to, although I know that those relationships can go weird too. So at first, it kind of seemed like the writer was writing his kind of perfect dream woman. And she literally was a dream woman, right? But then I slowly began to realize that as much as Paprika is the lead in this story, she is not what the writer is making a statement about. The writer is making a statement about the men that surround Paprika. So I feel like I can very much forgive him for perhaps not writing the most believable female character, because he looks at the men around Paprika with really realistic and open eyes, particularly about men of his generation in Japan in the 90s. And I think that was where the real statement came in. Paprika is a caricature. Literally, she is a character that was created as a dream therapist. She is Atsuko Chiba, but she is also just a character that Atsuko has created. So I found that really, really interesting. The novel sags for me from the beginning to the middle. It was kind of cool right at first because I was like, ooh, this is super exciting. And then a lot of this novel, and I mean a lot, is about workplace drama and dynamics, which I think was it might still be a very big deal in Japan, because people throw themselves into their work harder than they do in other places. This kind of drama in my own personal life at work is stuff that I just am like, that's work, who cares, and I leave, right? But to number one, to the more successful, and to the Japanese, it's kind of a bigger deal. And these are very successful people that were being shown in this novel. This drama would, of course, be much more important, but it wasn't very fun to read. However, when we get to the halfway point, when the mini DCs are invented and are being misused by people that don't really understand them, the novel really takes off, and the second half of the novel was an incredible read. So that little sag at the beginning makes it a little hard to get through, but if you stick with it, you'll enjoy the second half, I guarantee. My last negative or con about this book is that I feel like the writer never really explores the subconscious to the extent that other people have in this trope. This is, for a book that is so much about the subconscious, this book spends very little time with it. Most of it is cold, hard reality. And when I read a book about exploring the human subconscious and the weirdness of what the world looks like in our brains and through our unique perception, I feel like this book just barely touched a little bit of the surface of how weird that could be and then moved on. Most of the book is about things that happen outside the head, not things that happen inside the head, and that was a little bit of a negative for me. However, I do highly recommend this book, and I think that anybody that enjoys the Dream Machine trope will like it as well. Especially if you like the concept of looking at, instead of the subconscious of many individual or of different individuals, looking at the subconscious of an entire generation in a very specific country, then this really, that's kind of what this does best, is it looks at an entire generation's subconscious. And I found that really, really interesting. So for that, I would absolutely recommend this story. I am going to do a deep reading of this. You can expect it in a couple of days. If you've watched the anime and really want to know how the book is connected to the anime, you can watch the deep read. And I think I will also talk about the anime on this one. I can't decide if that'll be a third video or not, but I do want to talk about the connections between the anime and this book. So yeah, you can expect those videos in the future. And that's really all I have to say about Paprika the novel without spoiling it. If you'd like to hear more, go ahead and watch my plot spoiling deep read in a couple of days. All right. If you watched this to the end, thank you very much. If you liked it, please click like. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe, as we'll be making a lot more of it in the future. Thank you so much for watching.